Happy Friday, Mountaineer Nation. Thanks for tuning in to another edition of Fox on West Virginia Mountaineer Sports. And it's been a busy week from what's been happening with the men's basketball team, both on the court last weekend over Easter weekend, and then what's happening off the court, what's going on in the transfer portal. We haven't been 100% locked in on this baseball team that was also playing this past weekend. It was a challenging weekend. And I've been having this thought on my mind I've been kind of monitoring the situation for about a week or so now. So I finally want to get it off my chest, and I hope that you're watching this before West Virginia takes on Texas Tech, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time on Friday evening. So because it will kind of change, I feel like, the context of this conversation. So if you'd like to support me and my channel, I hope you like this video so more Mountaineer fans can see it across YouTube, and would love to have you a subscriber to my channel, especially if you like this baseball team and want to see more baseball coverage, because I love following it, I like talking about it, and I really appreciate that they're on ESPN Plus as much as they are, so that I don't have to pay for YouTube TV to be able to watch them so much. May have to, get another month subscription if I want to watch the regionals and super regionals, or, mooch off a bar, restaurant, or my parents or something like that for whenever the time comes. But anyway, the situation that I want to talk about for tonight, and I don't usually like to do this where I just talk about the situation and don't take a definitive side, but I'm not necessarily there just yet that I want to say one way or another, but I want to talk about the situation that I'm monitoring. And it follows around West Virginia's starting pitcher, who has been their Friday night starter throughout up to this point in time in the season, when we're about at the halfway point of the college baseball season. I know there's still a lot to be had out there, but it seems like if you've been following every single game action now, we're in kind of the dog days of the regular season, if you want to call it that, just like July is, or I feel like for Major League Baseball teams. But it's Dawson Montesa. His numbers as of entering Friday night's contest: a 5.87 ERA, a 1.3 WHIP. So among West Virginia's weekend starters, those are the highest of the three. And as if you've been following me, heard my March recap just over a little bit of a week ago, his numbers aren't that bad or that far off the two other guys in Chanson Cole and Max Yell. 38 and a third innings pitched, 32 hits allowed, so one fewer than Yell. Strikeout numbers at 50, so two fewer than Yell at 52. Batting average against the highest at 227. Where he's really getting killed is in the home runs. And I've just said that I think just missing his locations on the home runs that he's given up, leaving the ball a little bit up, elevated into the zone, and that's what's really been hurting him this year compared to guys like Chanson Cole and Max Yell. So watching West Virginia play on Wednesday night, 10 running the blundering turd of Marshall at Wagner Field at Kendrick Family Ballpark was very nice to see, given how close those contests were against Marshall last season. We know how loud they can be in all of the other sports and on social media. But watching it, short outing my midweek starter, David Hagan, who's kind of filled into that role. But I want to talk about two other players, one in Ian Korn, and also Ben McDougal. So, it kind of dawned on me to the fact that he'd missed up to this point in time in the season in Ben McDougal, guy who I really thought would be one of West Virginia's kind of high leverage relievers, and he'd been dealing with an injury, and it wasn't the greatest outing. Just went 1 1/3, gave up 2 runs in that in his outing. Did get a strikeout. Just confirming these numbers. So, really inflated ERA. I think that's going to simmer down over the course of the next 6 weeks as we get closer to the postseason. But also, Ian Korn's really settled in. Wasn't a great outing last weekend against UCF. None of the pitchers really had their best outing of the season against West Virginia's toughest opponent so far. But Korn, on Wednesday's contest against Marshall, 3 full innings, only threw 36 pitches, very efficient. 2 strikeouts, only allowed 2 hits, no runs. So his ERA from where it was in mid-February with when he had a terrible 5-run outing against Georgia Southern in which his ERA inflated to 11.25 is now down to a respectable 3.86. So we can recall back, talk about the offseason. Ian Korn was West Virginia's first player that it brought in through the transfer portal, Division II National Pitcher of the Year last year, out of Seton Hill in nearby Greensburg, Pennsylvania. Kind of thought that maybe Ian Korn, not Maxiel, after coming off Tommy John surgery. Didn't know really what Chance and Cole was going to give you, that it was Korn's opportunity to, maybe take the Friday night starting position or, just a weekday start. But weekend starter, but he hasn't really fit into that. So he's kind of been used all over the place, kind of settling into a middle innings relief role. And I'm just wondering if it's finally Ian Korn time for an opportunity to switch out for Dawson Montesa, because if head coach Steve Sabins is worried about the depth of his bullpen for this season. Because remember, West Virginia doesn't have Chase Mitchell anymore. Was that his name? Sorry, just checking on this. Chase Meyer, sorry. Meyer, Mitchell, M last name. Sorry, a little brain fart there. But no Chase Meyer, to be able to count on him for his innings and what he would have contributed on as a starter. So, but I feel pretty comfortable now with McDougal back into it that you can play with this a little bit. And this is why I think this is the right time to do it, because we saw there's some mixing up to the pitching rotation last year right around this same time. And I think what I mean by that is the best case was Jack Cartsonas getting inserted into the weekend rotation as well, and West Virginia really leaned on Griffin Kern as its Friday night starter, and he delivered. And why am I mentioning this? Why am I even talking about this situation? Is I don't necessarily, and these are such first world problems. This isn't for a program now that has aspirations of leveling up, competing again for a conference championship, getting to a regional, maybe even potentially hosting a regional. These are more first world problems. So I want to put that into context here, that now West Virginia baseball is leveling up and we can get kind of nitty gritty about some of these specifics in their details. Because looking at the schedule now, it's really setting up, I feel like, nicely. And this is why I'm very curious. West Virginia back on the road in, very hostile territory, to use that cliche, at Texas Tech. Even though they're not challenging as one of the top contenders in the Big 12 conference like West Virginia, UCF, Kansas now creeping its way up into there, and also Arizona State still nationally ranked. It's still tough playing Texas Tech as the loud and proud bad boys of the Big 12. At least they think they are in football, trying to win across the major 3 sports in football, basketball, and baseball. Then West Virginia goes next week to Hagerstown, Maryland to take on Penn State. And although West Virginia lost to Penn State, I think split the series. Or no, they didn't get to play the home game last year. Played out in State College, lost that game, I think right around this time or later in April last year. They have this contest in Hagerstown, Maryland. A game was canceled from a few weeks ago because of really cold weather in Morgantown. Penn State's terrible, 9-21 right now. So if there was an opportunity then with Houston, who's the worst team in the Big 12, to maybe try some things out, experiment some things, because then the following week, after the weekend of the football spring festival, West Virginia takes on Pitt at home, the only backyard brawl meeting. We know how important that game means in all of West Virginia's competitions. So, and Pitt's decent this year. One of the national leaders, as I talked about at the end of March, in home runs, and still stay in that category. I checked in on their schedule earlier before I recorded this, and they've kind of been up and down. They've taken 2 of 3 series against teams that you wouldn't have necessarily suspected. So they look like they've gotten their act together. So I want to get that as a really nice non-conference win for West Virginia's resume. If and I'm not like saying, oh, conceding the Big 12 championship already to UCF like that, but you get what I'm trying to say, and just trying to manage how West Virginia goes throughout this second half of the regular season. So if this is a time, and then who's to say, Montesa might go out tonight, Friday, here, pitch his best performance of the season, water under the bridge, keep things the status quo, lean on your bullpen, use Hagan out of your midweek starter, keep Korn in his relief role. Or, again, I just don't like seeing West Virginia from what, I don't know, necessarily seems like, but at least the way that the regular season has been going, conceding the first games of its series. And okay, that's not, but I mean, okay, March 6th that was the Friday night contest against Columbia, a loss. Baylor, Friday, March 13th, loss. West Virginia won the first game of its series, swept BYU, but lost Friday, March 27th against Arizona State and lost in a 10-run fashion. Last Friday at home against UCF, lost 5-0. And it's not like, Korn's going, or not Korn, Montesa is going that long and deep into these games. So I think it's worth thinking about a shakeup, monitoring this situation. Again, could be a great weekend, great outing for Montesa. He keeps down one of those weekend starters roles, or see how how Sabins manages both Hagen's and Korn's innings over this weekend at Texas Tech, and then maybe we see a shakeup of someone different starting this week against Penn State, maybe against next weekend against Houston at home, friendly confines of Kendrick Family Ballpark, and then maybe, who knows, Montesa start is skipped next weekend against Houston to then start Tuesday at home against Pitt. And maybe a little bit of time off, or extra time off than a week's work, or maybe Montesa, I don't know, pitches as, I don't know, that's kind of tough, to a Friday to a Wednesday, pitch an inning or so to then not start over the weekend against Houston, but then come the next week against Pitt. So just something I'm watching. I don't know if you've been following this team game in and game out. Is your thoughts kind of in the same place? I just think about, and this is kind of the way that I lean, is if you're going into, winner take all series or tournaments like the Big 12 tournament's going to be, where it's a single elimination, then you get into a regional and you always want to win the first game, and you get into a super regional and it's just a best out of 2 of 3 series, you're going to pitch your best starter in your team's first game of action. So that would be Yell. So if you're going to do that, can you get flexible? Either, who knows, maybe then Montesa fits into a relief role better than, and Korn continues or thrives in more of a starter's role. I think it's worth experimenting. It's, again, not make or break it with this team. In fact, I think the best thing that's going to help them is just getting hot bats again. Team was dealing with a sickness apparently through Friday into Saturday, might have even hung over into Sunday. I just think West Virginia ran into a really hot pitcher in UCF starter on Sunday, so couldn't get anything going offensively in the Sunday contest. But Saturday pulled victory out of the jaws of defeat, winning 11-10 after being down 10-2. So just a little bit inconsistent at the plate. I think it's coming that West Coast trip I said, coming back from Arizona, then getting hit with a team sickness, that maybe they just heat up the bats here down in Lubbock, and then they get back right on track. But I just think that what would help them and their confidence, as again they look into the back half of the regular season, look to position themselves just right to be at their hottest potential for the postseason, is to eventually maybe move this rotation around. So Yell starts on Friday, even though I think head coach Steve Sabins likes the idea of, okay, you give it your all on a Friday, you can definitely count on one win as part of the 2 out of 3 series, and Saturday when Yell takes the mound, and then you take your 50-50 shot or something like that with Chance and Cole on Sunday. So if you maybe put Yell as your 1, your 2 on Sunday, you feel better about that because you have to play 3 games. I guess I'm more so in the department thinking in my headspace of being I'd rather have that first game automatically already one of the series. So if Montesa's a guy who, as it's proven through these last, 5 weeks that I just went through, I think it was 4, that Friday night, West Virginia is just not getting it done completely as a team. So if they could find another or another option there, or maybe Montesa figures everything out and he's back on track. Because again, looking at his numbers, he's not all that far off statistically. It's the walks that's killing him, and it's the walks hit batsmen to get together, and it's the home runs that he's given up all together as one. So not overly inflated, but just right now, look at 5.87 on the ERA, and it's like, ooh, of the 3 starters that West Virginia has, is there an opportunity for kind of an outside contender to take over one of those weekend starting rotations? Or if it ain't completely broke, don't fix it. Where do you fall, Mountaineer Nation? Would love to know how you feel on this subject. Please like this video again so more Mountaineer fans can see it. Would love to have you a subscriber to my channel. And let's go Mountaineers. Pull out this weekend series on the road in Lubbock, Texas, and come back because Pitt, Penn State on the horizon very soon. So tell your friends, tell your family, tell your dog that I do this each and every week, and I have a lot of fun doing it. Hail West Virginia. Let's go.